Hello, welcome back. Today we're going to be discussing the Safety Act bill that has just been blocked in the in the Supreme Court in Illinois. It was blocked by a lower judge who brought up that it was unconstitutional. Now, any of you who are familiar with this act know how significant something like this is. Now, I'm going to try to break this down as simplistically as I possibly can to those who are not familiar with this, and those who are familiar with this act and what it means. This may give you a little bit more clarification on what's going on here. Excuse me. Now, as you see behind me, the Safety Act, which was going to be implemented in the state of Illinois. And a lot of times when these acts happen, they can impact the entire country. Now, this particular act, it was going to stop the bail bonds. It was going to stop the incarceration of people who could not afford to pay cash bonds. It was going to stop that. So basically, if you were convicted of a crime, there would be no, you would be almost immediately released in certain cases. In previous cases, where those people were incarcerated, the bail bond would keep them incarcerated. There would be a bond placed on them to keep them, let's just say, to give some type of insurance policy for those people to return back to court to face judgment for their crimes. Let's just put it that way. Now, those bail bonds, I can speak on this firsthand. There were times in my life where I was on the other side of the track, where I was incarcerated for minor offenses, but I got to take a peek on what was happening, in the judicial system when the matters of bail bonds were used, and a lot of times the bail bonds were misused. Now, because of that, there's been a lot of attention on that, on these bail bonds, and how it had been affecting a lot of the impoverished community. And when I say impoverished community, it greatly affected the black community in this country. Now, and the thing about it, those crimes, those people who were impoverished, it stopped being the black community. It started to spread across different cultures and into different races and different communities. One of the things that I observed when dealing with these bail bonds, a lot of times it took advantage, of those who could not afford it. And you can get locked up for somewhat of a petty crime and be giving an outlandish bond. And sometimes, you can be, let's just say the cash bond did not match the crime, or someone, remember, when you don't pay your bond, you can be placed in jail for an extended period of time, for sometimes over a year, as you're waiting for your case to be brought up in front of a judge. Now, so the bail bond was a way of ensuring that that you were released, and the bail bond was a way of ensuring that you would come back to court, to face the charges. Now, the thing that was happening was that these bonds got so out of hand, and you were almost guilty until proven innocent. You never seen a courtroom, you never seen a judge, but you're still sitting in a jail cell because you could not afford the bond, which was a cash bond. And, a lot of times, you would have to pay, I think it's 10% of that bond, sometimes a little more, and sometimes it could be less. Now, keep in mind, this is a business, and one of the things that I observed was that how it was being implemented, it was taking advantage of the lower and middle class, because those groups of people a lot of times could not afford those bail bonds. Now, I'm gonna get back to that in a minute, But the reason why that's so important is because a lot of times in the lower middle class, and even just in just at the poverty level, the paying a cash bond is out of the question. The funds, the money, the capital is not there. A lot of times they'll even take real estate to get you released. A lot of times they don't own anything. The people who are impacted by this. So what you saw was those people sitting in jail for an extended period of time. Now let me explain something to you. Now remember, whenever you're dealing with the judicial system or anything similar to that, with lawyers and prosecutors, judges, jails, this is a business. Everyone makes money off of people who are incarcerated. So if you get inside that revolving door, you catch a charge, you best rest assured that you're going to pay one way or the other. If you don't have the money, you're going to pay. And in a lot of cases, majority of the cases, you're going to pay with your freedom. Now, and someone's going to get paid for you sitting in that jail cell. Well, let me explain something to you. When someone who's sitting in a jail cell, or before they even been committed of a crime, they'll sit there for months, sometimes years at a time, before they even see a judge to go in front of a judge for the crime that they've been convicted of. So as you're sitting there at the federal level, the county that you're in or the state that you're in, they are giving funds to keep you incarcerated. So if you don't have the money that they can get, say if you have a cash bond of $200,000 and you have to pay 10% of that, that goes to a bail's bond to ensure your way back to the courts. Now, if you don't have that, you're really no benefit. You're not feeding the system. But guess what? You are. Because if you're sitting in that jail cell, every day that you're sitting there, the federal government comes back and pays that jail through the county or the state that you're in to keep you housed. Now, sometimes that can be $30, $60, up to $90,000 a year just to keep you incarcerated. So the incentive to keep you in jail is just that. So the dirty little secret is that because you're in jail, you're paying the system. The government is paying to keep you incarcerated. Now, the thing is, a lot of times, if you've been fortunate enough to never see the inside of a prison cell or a jail cell or see prison, you can imagine it's a pretty terrible place. And the way that they make their money off of it is a lot of times, is how they feed you. Now, I've talked before about the diet. So, when they give you when the state gives the county the money to house these, let's say, inmates or the people. We're not even going to go to the where you've been convicted. Let's just talk about the people who've never met the judge who are sitting in jail. That particular person, even though they did not have the money to get out, they're being paid by the state, or the jail is being paid up to $30,000, $60,000, $90,000 a year to house you. So with that money, they're supposed to feed you, house you, just basically take care of you, medical care, anything that you need. So with that money, they're supposed to accommodate you. Now, what the state is doing now, that's why the conditions in these jails are so bad. It's a business. They're going to give you the least amount of treatment. They take care of you at the bare minimum because they're trying to save money. To take care of a human being, it costs money. So they're going to cut costs at every corner that they can. They'll cut every corner that they can through the meals. You might get a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for lunch, and no one cares. It's not a nutritional meal. No one cares what you're getting because guess what? You're sitting in a jail cell. And remember, for them to treat you that way, first they have to demonize you. So you're sitting in a jail cell. You deserve it. No. The state has been paid to take care of you, and there's money there to take care of you in a humanely way. So by them demonizing you, just say they can justify, they're giving you 30,000 or 60,000, they've been giving 30, 60, 90,000 dollars to take care of you, and they're feeding you peanut butter and jelly sandwiches or mystery meat sandwiches. So that's the business aspect of it. So out of that 30 or 60, 90,000, they may only spend 10% of that taking care of you, and who gets the rest? It's the state, it's the judges, it's the lawyers, it's the people who take care of you. It's a business, it's the guards that are there monitoring you. It's a business for everyone. They're making a business off of your demise. Now, this has been basically been the things that have been coming to light about this has been brought to the attention, and now people are standing up to take care of it and to stop some of these practices. Now, this is the thing I need you to get you to understand. Now, the way that they're doing the pushback on this was called the Safety Act. Now, the Safety Act, or the Safety Act bill, was to basically stop this. Now, one of the things that was happening was, let's just say, someone with mental problems. They'll get caught up in the system. They pretty much don't have the ability to take care of themselves. Someone with a mental disability can be sitting in a prison for years. Constantly in that revolving circle, and the county or the local governments are benefiting off of that. It's pretty sad. The people with mental illness, they are greatly impacted, by the system. So the pushback was the Safety Act. It was to stop these types of practices. Now, remember, the people who are behind this, they're always looking for an opportunity. So to push their agenda. Now, now what I'm about to say here, is going to be controversial, but it's not. Now, as you see behind me, you see one of the state of Illinois as a map broken down by the counties. Now, this Safety Act has just been blocked by a lower judge, saying that it was unconstitutional. That that the bail bonds should be in place, because there's a flip side to this whole bill, that certain people who should be locked up under a bond, that should happen, but because it was so taken advantage of, that there's been a pushback to stop it. There needs to be a balance with this. This isn't a one size fits all type of situation. The Safety Act, as it stands now, can be beneficial, but it can be taken advantage of. Now, let me give you an example of that. What you see here is the great state of Illinois, broken down by county. Now, the Safety Act bill has just been blocked. Now keep this in mind. As the Safety Act has been blocked, only a certain amount of counties will be affected. Now, what you see here in what's that color? Yellow. Those are the states that will still be under the Safety Act, where if you get convicted of a crime, a second-degree murder, theft, if you threaten a judge, or if you threaten a police officer, or certain types of theft, guess what? You, with the Safety Act, you can be released, and you can be, it'll be up to you to return back to court to face those charges. So they can't lock you up or keep you. Let's just put it that way. They can't keep you under the Safety Act. Now, keep in mind, that right there is a dangerous recipe, because guess what? Certain people, are a menace to society, or who are very destructive, should be, kept in prison until they see the judge. So what they're doing is, that this is the balance. So now what you're saying is, these states here in Illinois will not be affected by that Supreme Court ruling, because the lower judge who said it was unconstitutional did not include the states, the counties you see here that are highlighted. These counties right here. And let me explain something to you, which is going to blow your mind. One of the main counties in that yellow highlighted area is Cook County. It's the second most populated county in the U.S., second only to Los Angeles County. Now, the reason why that is important is because now a lot of the violence you see coming out of Chicago is mostly perpetrated out of, guess what, Cook County and the surrounding counties. Those will not be impacted by this Supreme Court ruling. There will be a, let's just say, will be those people who committed those crimes, people who committed a second-degree murder, attempted murder. Guess what? They don't get a bond. There's no more cash bonds for them. They can't keep them incarcerated any longer. That's over with. So the people who should be locked up or incarcerated, who are a menace to society, will be released right back on the street. And basically, when these people get incarcerated, for crimes, the crimes can be so bad that there's no way that these people are going to come back to court. They'll be on the run until, they get caught. That's just the reality of it. So you'll have these people who do these crimes, they can't get jobs, because they're on the run, and the only thing they have is to resort back to a life of crime as they're on the run, because this is a dangerous individual, even to police officers, because they know the moment that the person who's on the run knows that the moment they get incarcerated, guess what? They'll be locked up for an extended period of time, quite possibly 20, 30 years in prison. So that's a dangerous individual to be just roaming around the street trying to avoid the capture of the police. He can't get a normal job. He only can resort to a life of crime. This is a very dangerous recipe. But guess what? When you see things like this happen, they just don't happen. They're orchestrated. Why wouldn't a county like Cook County be involved in that Supreme Court ruling where they said it was unconstitutional? Because they want it that way. Keep in mind, the people in Chicago, if you're not familiar with it, there's pretty much a war going on right in Chicago. The nickname for it is Chirac, and a lot of people compare it to living in a war zone. And one of the most popular places that has been in the news is a place called O Block. This is the home of the former home of Michelle Obama in the past, but most recently it has been known as the home of let's just say Chief Keef, King Von, and some I think it was Lil Durk, and they talk about it in their songs about some of the violence that they've seen in O Block. And the thing that you need to get, the violence in those communities, guess what? They're orchestrated. They have been talked for years that community where guns just magically appear in alleyways. The gun accessibility is pretty easy to get a gun in these communities. Why? Because it's orchestrated to be a war zone, and it's been talked about before that this particular area was under. I'm give you a word here. It's called the purge, where almost murder is legal. If you think about it, what these laws are doing is basically incentivizing people to do crime. Right now there's certain laws on the book that if you're 12 and under, you can no longer be convicted of a crime. Now you're seeing major stores, store chains leaving these areas because these youth are just going in there, just grabbing things, grabbing clothes, jewelry, food, anything. Guess what? There's nothing you can do about it because you can't convict them. This is a recipe for destruction. It's organized this way. So when you see something like this happening, dig a little deeper and say, why is all of these counties here, all that in the gray, those are counties. They won't be involved in that Safety Act. The lower courts, the Supreme Court just said, no, we're going to put a hold on it. So right now, that doesn't include those counties there. And the main one is Cook County, which is the most violent, where most of the violence is coming out of Chicago. When you see about the violence going into Chicago, it's normally coming from Cook County and those surrounding counties. Why wouldn't they be included in a bill where they would stop it? Listen, let me tell everyone, if you're listening to this, now I've said many times before that the black community is under attack. Now, if you can no longer put on the blindfolds and not see what's happening here, that community is under attack. It's under a purge. Let me make that very clear. That community is under attack and is under a purge. You know, it's almost like a green light for violence. You know, this is a very dangerous recipe that we're seeing being played out. Remember, you know, I'm going to talk more in depth about this. You know, some of the things that I've seen, you know, in this country that has been unveiled to me. You know, it's basically a time where, you know, people in power are going to have to take a very serious look at what's happening in this country. Because what you see right here is being done by the laws. These are laws of the land. This should be disturbing to anyone. How can any community expect to prosper when you have laws on the books that's going against everything that's going to lead to prosperity? And that's what you're seeing here play out in Cook County, on the home of O Block. Look at that. Look at O Block and see what's going on there. You know how the violence in these communities are spilling over. So if anyone who's listening to this, you know, you need to pay very close attention. And now, this just doesn't stop with O Block. The most right now, Cook County is the second most populated county in the country. Is only second to Los Angeles County in California, which is known for gang violence. You know, these laws attack these communities. You know, keep in mind, when something like this happens in Cook County, guess what? You know, expect to see something like this happen in Los Angeles County, where the crime is on par with Cook County here in Illinois. This is an attack on the American people, and more specifically, the people of Illinois and in Cook County. This is what happens. This is a breakdown of society. These things are orchestrated. Now keep in mind, why would they do this? You know, there can be a million reasons on why they're doing it. Don't worry about why they're doing it. Just know that it's happening. Why would the most populated county in this state, the second most populated county in the country, not be affected by that Supreme Court ruling? Guess what? They've turned on the green light for that purge to happen in that county. If any politicians, when I make these podcasts or these transmissions, it's to help enlighten people. You have to look at this with a different set of eyes. Put your thinking cap on and see what's happening to this country. You know, remember the people. This particular area of the country is known for violence. There's a proportionate amount of black people who are living in these counties. Now, remember, in order for them to perpetrate something like this on a community, first they have to demonize it. They demonized it with the violence. They demonized the people in the community, just so happens to be black people, or the violence is in there. It's perpetuated. It's almost influenced. It's almost cultivated of what they're doing. As you can see here, they sliced out a piece of the pie right there and said, hey, go at it. We're going to do this little experiment and see what happened. Remember, The Purge, if you watch the movie, it started off as an experiment, which wound up spreading to the entire country. And I'm going to leave you at that, and good day.